Hello everyone, my name's Boone and I'm going to show you guys my original 1816 Remington conversion musket. There were no videos of this particular musket. I'm sure there was a couple of the 1816 flintlock musket, but none of this conversion, and this is a pretty unique and really cool type of musket. So, this is of course an original, and it was originally, of course, a flintlock like this one. This is my 1795, and I just got it out to make an example, and I'll show that how it works. I'm sure a lot of people watching this already know how a flintlock works, but you know, I learned how they work by watching YouTube videos, so it never hurts to repeat. So it's not in bad condition at all. I mean, it's got, of course, some pitting on the barrel. Not too bad. A few nicks and dings here in the stock, a few little cracks. No major cracks, though. Now, this one was converted to Menard tape primer and percussion by, if I can zoom in on it here on the lock plate, see the markings. Okay, Remington, Ilion, New York, 1857 US. So, converted to this, to Menard tape primer and percussion, and rifled in 1857 by Remington. They completely changed out the lock plate from the old flintlock lock plate. Now, for those of you who don't know how a Menard tape primer works, the first mass-issued rifled arm for the U.S. Army was the 1855 rifled musket. And they all had this Menard tape primer. Now, what it is on this one is, for those of you who do not know, Menard tape primer works like this. There'd be a roll of a canvas or paper kind of material. I'm not quite sure of the material, but it had a roll of mercury fulminate. And there'd be an arm coming out of a hole right there, as you can see, right above my fingernail. And there'd be an arm coming through that, and it would push up each cap going up. That is all connected to each other when you cock the hammer. So every time you cock the hammer, it would move it up farther and go through this slit and right over the nipple. And that would save on reloading time when you didn't have to reach in your cap pouch and take out a nipple, fumble with the nipple, fumble with the cap and put it on the nipple and all that thing. It's from my experience in the field, if you know, it takes you a while to get used to it, trying to find one cap, and I often always pinch 3 or 4 and I'd lose a couple on the ground or fumble with it in the cap pouch or whatever. I'm sure that the actual soldier in the Civil War would have been used to not doing that, but, you know, still saved on reloading time, so. Anyway, from what I have read, these were very expensive to manufacture, and often when the roll got wet, they wouldn't work. At least that's what I have heard and read. You can take that for what it's worth, but. And these really weren't, you know, when the Civil War rolled around, Menard tape primers, they didn't want to mess with them because, frankly, they were expensive to manufacture, and they were, you know, they get wet and they probably wouldn't work. So, like the U.S., for example, the Springfield Armory did, they were manufacturing 1855s with the Menard tape primer, and they just said, kind of screw it, and we'll go to the 1861 Springfield, and that all they really did was drop this. They dropped the Menard tape primer, and they kept the rest of the musket same, except they changed the sight. Well, the second model, 1855, did not have this sight. It had the 3-leaf, not this long-range sight. This musket was converted to this. At the time, they were making first model 1855s, which were around 1857, so these were the early ones that were converted like this got these long-range sights. The ones that didn't, for example, the ones that went to New Jersey, did not get these, which were the runs around late 1857 to early 1858, according to what I've read on the website College Hill Arsenal. This particular one has a few cracks on it. Not too bad though. There's one right here. One right there. One right there. And of course one right there. But you know, there's nothing to worry, nothing too much to worry about. I have used it a couple times in the field, but I've been very gentle with it. Maybe fired like 8 to 10 rounds, you know, blanks. I will never fire this thing live because frankly I don't trust myself with that. Anyway, when they converted this, they also rifled the barrel and they changed the breech plug out with one that had a bolster instead of just a hole in the side. That way they could have the nipple, of course. And this particular one has a unique thing to it. It does not have its 1816 ramrod anymore. Sometime in its life, it was replaced with an original 1842 Springfield ramrod, trumpet head. I do not know if, of course, that was when it was replaced with an original during the modern times, or you know, back around the Civil War period. Maybe the ramrod broke during action, or they lost it. Maybe the soldier forgot to take it out of the musket and he fired it and went with flying spear, which was a common thing, and they lost the ramrod. So maybe they replaced it back then. Who knows? So anyway, yeah, I really love this thing. I really do. It's actually all originals. If you ever handled originals compared to reproduction muskets, they are very light compared to reproductions. This one does not have, well, it is there, but you just can't, they're too far gone. You can't really read them. It's the inspector's marks from the factory, the original 1816 inspector's marks. I do not know if this was a Harpers Ferry or a Springfield, just because, of course, they replaced the lock plate. And I can't find any other markings on it that'll tell me whether it's a Harpers Ferry or a Springfield. I've tried a bunch of resources and I just can't find out. And it has to be either, and from what I can figure out, it has to be a second model of 1816, because the swivel here is not by itself over here, it's on the trigger guard. So, yes, like a few scratches like this, not too bad. I didn't do that, FYI. A ding there, a little bit of damage right there, not too bad. But yeah, such a unique musket, and really, when you actually carry a real original musket, for me personally, it brings a whole new aspect of realism, and frankly, really cool when you're doing a reenactment. So, anyway, that's my 1816, and for those of you who, I promised earlier in the video, for those of you who don't know how a flintlock works, like this one used to be, flintlock. So obviously, well, okay, with a flintlock, you'd prime the pan first when you load it. So this would be open, and you'd pour powder in the pan right there. And as you can see, there's a little hole right there in the side of the barrel, right above the pan. Now, this piece of flint on this hammer here, there we go, would hit against this frizzen, creating sparks, opening it up, throwing sparks into the pan, igniting the powder there. The powder that ignited would go through the hole in the side of the barrel, and it would ignite the main charge and throw the musket ball out the end. So, you know, that was very prone to weather, and that was a piece of technology that pretty much ended for the U.S. Army in the 1840s, early 1840s, when they first came out with the mainstay weapon for the U.S. Army. They had the Mississippi, but 1842 Springfield, for example, was the first percussion arm. There was a smoothbore, of course. Anyway, here's a little odds and ends. Confederate frock coat, a Confederate depot sack coat or commutation jacket, maybe 69 caliber cartridge box, cap pouch, a bayonet for a Repro 1816. I do not have a original bayonet for this 1816. And I've tried, just for the heck of it, tried the Repro 1816 bayonet on this thing, and it just does not fit. It actually is a huge contrast. It's really just not the same, and it's a Pedersoli bayonet, so you know, that was surprising to me, but yet it wasn't really. You know, wheel hat, painted. They call them mechanics hats. English cartridge box. I have a tintype that is my favorite tintype, and I made a tintype of my own trying to reproduce that one, of a Confederate soldier with an English cartridge box with an 1816 Remington conversion that did not have the rear sight. But to me, it was unmistakable that it was an 1816 Remington conversion. And he had it turned backwards. In the photo, he had it turned backwards where all you could see was this of the lock plate. You could just see the hammer poking out about like that much. And so it didn't have a rear sight on it. He had his hand right here. His hand down, of course, around the stock. But I am absolutely 100% convinced it was no doubt an 1816, no doubt. But I was convinced it was a Remington conversion just because of the hammer. It was too unmistakable to me. But anyway, that's my original 1816 Remington conversion. Got any questions? Please put it in the comments, and you guys have a great day.